Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. Welcome to our July 2019 Accessibility Learning webinar. My name's Sean, and I'll be one of your moderators today, and I'm on Microsoft's Disability Answer Desk team.
Hi, I'm Chitra, and I work at the Microsoft Disability Answer Desk team too. We will be your moderators for today's session. Our Microsoft mission is to empower everyone to achieve more. Many of our customers who met us during the conferences and called the Disability Answer Desk have requested for the trainings on our accessibility products and services, and here we are. We started a monthly webinar series to empower every customer with accessibility knowledge. So we're going to get started now, but before that, Sean, why don't you tell us about our webinar, what we're going to do today?
Absolutely. And just so everyone's aware, we do have captions available. If you want those, if you open a web browser and go to the URL aka.ms/webinar captions, you'll be able to see those. In terms of today's format, this will be about an hour long with the last 15 minutes dedicated to audience Q&A. And don't worry, if you do miss a part of today's session, it will be recorded and a link will be made available, and we'll send it out to everyone once it's ready. Today we have Mike Tholfsen from Microsoft's education team here to talk about learning tools and give us some great live demos. If you do want to access his slides, you can download those at aka.ms/Microsoft Accessibility Webinar 2019.
As Sean mentioned, once Mike finishes his demo, we will have time for question and answers towards the end. We will dedicate 15 minutes for answering all your questions. But in the meantime, please continue to email your questions at accwebinars@microsoft.com. Again, the email address is accwebinars@microsoft.com. You can also tweet us as MSFTenable. Please use the hashtag accessibilitywebinar to post your questions. Please keep the questions coming through and we'll get to the end. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike Tholfsen now.
Hey everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. My name is Mike, and I work on the Microsoft education team. And what we're going to talk about today is learning tools across our whole inclusive classroom. And we'll get into a little bit what that means. But also here on my title slide, you can see my name and my Twitter handle. I encourage you to follow me on Twitter if you're out there on Twitter. And we'll also have other ways to contact me via email later on. Now, to start out at a high level, Microsoft's mission, as referenced before, is to empower every student on the planet to achieve more. And that mission for education, empowering every student, is inclusive. So the words empower and the every, those are very inclusive terms. I like to say we're not trying to empower 86% of all the students, and we're not trying to empower 94% of all the students. We're trying to empower 100% of all the students on the planet. And so that mission resonates into what we're going to talk about today. Just to set a little bit of context, this is a great slide that really demonstrates how the United States, in this case, this is a US survey, but we believe many of these percentages are similar across the world. This was a survey across 14,000 educators in the United States, and this shows the landscape of today's classrooms. Almost 3/4 of classrooms have 4 or more reading levels in a single classroom. So that's a wide range of reading levels. It's also almost 3/4 of classrooms have 1 or more special education students, or SEN students if you're in the UK, integrated into that general education population. And then over half of classrooms have 1 or more non-native speakers in the classroom. In the US, we often will call those English language learners, but it could be in any country of the world. There could be non-native speakers. On the education side, or the teacher side, it's up to half of a teacher's time can be spent working on those diverse student needs, which can include assistive technology. Educators today are expected to personalize and differentiate across the board, and that can be very difficult to do when you have this range of diversity in the classroom. So how does Microsoft Education think about this, and how can we help educators and school systems out there? So first off, we want to enable students to grow their independence and their potential. How can we help students be more independent? One of the things you're going to hear me reference today is when I say built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free. And I'll talk more about what that means. On the educator side, how can we help teachers reach every single learner in the classroom? We want to enable them and amplify what they're doing through technology to help them meet the goals that they have. And at a school system level, or a district level, or maybe even a countrywide level, how can the Microsoft 365 platform help with the goals around equity and inclusion? I work with many schools around the United States and the world, and a very common thread I always hear is in that school's vision, and if you're an educator or a school leader out there, think about in your school vision, do you have something around inclusion, accessibility, or equity? All of those can come into play in almost every school I talk to. So how can the Microsoft platform help you with those goals, whether they're meeting the goals in your vision, or maybe they're compliance or federal regulation goals or local regulations that you need to meet around accessibility? Either way, we believe the platform can help there. Now, across the board, how does Microsoft think about accessibility? Now, one part of inclusion is accessibility. Another part of inclusion might be things like equity of internet access at home or not. Now, part of inclusion might be speaking the native language or not, or the parents. But from a pure accessibility standpoint, this slide just shows across the board how Microsoft can categorize some of the different things that we have available in our platform. I won't be covering each of these today. I'll be hitting a few specific areas. But it really shows the breadth of how we think about this, whether it's learning, visual, hearing, mobility, neurodiversity, or mental health. And for those of you that aren't aware, there's a link at the bottom here. It's aka.ms/accessibility sway. And this link has every single capability across the Microsoft platform for accessibility and broken down into some of the categories you see here. So many people in schools I talk to tell me, wow, I had no idea that all of these accessibility capabilities were already available and built into things that we have, and in almost all cases are free. So if you take away anything from today, make sure that you understand what you already might have available for free that's going to help students and all sorts of people in your district. But inclusive classroom, I want to spend just a moment on this term before we dig into each of these categories. What does inclusive classroom mean? So as you can see here, I break it down into reading, writing, math, and communication. And I like to say we infuse the inclusive design principles into each of these categories. Because every single school district on the planet cares about these categories. And so what we like to do is we're not going to talk about a very specific type of accessibility category. We're going to talk about broad education categories. So for example, when we talk about reading, some of the designs might help a student with dyslexia, but they also might help students with visual impairments, or students who don't speak the native language, or students in the general education classroom, or. And so we think these capabilities help all students with reading. And they might help some students more than others, but they benefit all. And that's a great way to think about how we're looking at the inclusive classroom across Microsoft All Up. So to start out, I'm going to talk about reading. And reading is the most important aspect in education. The reason why, and there's a lot of research behind this, if students don't have a grasp on reading by about the end of 3rd grade and going into 4th grade, there's a lot of research that shows life outcomes ultimately go down significantly if reading is not tackled by the 3rd or 4th grade. And that is something that if you can't read effectively by the end of 3rd and 4th grade, you're going to have difficulty accessing the curriculum and content of all subjects across the board. And that's why it's so important. It really unlocks the rest of education for many students. Now, before we get into the Immersive Reader and some of the demos, just a slide here to show, you might wonder, why is Microsoft talking about things like dyslexia and reading and dysgraphia? And the background of this Immersive Reader is that Microsoft every year has something called a hackathon. We're about to start one here in just next week, actually. And it's 1 week out of the year where anyone in the entire company can work on any project they want that they're passionate about. So you have people coming together across the company to work on passion projects. And this was one from a few years ago. I happened to be part of this project, but there were many others who were part. We had reading PhD experts. We had a speech pathologist. We had accessibility experts. We had engineers. We had researchers. And we got together and we said, what if we took the latest science and research around reading, but focused inclusively on dyslexia as a core customer type? And so we iterated on that little hackathon project over the last couple of years, and we've built that out much more broadly. And I'm going to show that now. It's something that is showing up in our products called the Immersive Reader. The broader category, we talk about Microsoft Learning Tools, and Immersive Reader is part of that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip over to the demo, and I'm going to be in the web browser. So here I am in a product. I'm pretty sure Sean and Chitra have heard of this product. It's called Microsoft Word. You guys have heard of that product before? Of course, yeah. Yes. Yeah. What some people don't know is that Microsoft Word is free and available in the browser to anyone on the planet. Whether you're at home, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a student, whether you're at school, Word is free and available in the browser to anyone. And I like to say free many times because not everybody realizes that there's a free version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook. It's all free and in the web. So here I am in the free version of Word, and I'm going to go to the View tab. So I've clicked on the View tab here in Word, and there's a button called the Immersive Reader. And I'm going to click on this button. This is the thing that I just talked about, the Immersive Reader. So first off, what you're going to see is my screen. We've abstracted a lot of that user interface away. We call this focus mode to focus on the content. At the bottom, there is a play button with a triangle on it. When I click that play button,
the study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
It has read aloud with word and line highlighting. And that can help sustain focus and improve reading speeds in some cases. Now, this is not a revolutionary feature, but this is now built into Word for free. Built in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free. I can change the voice speed, faster or slower. I can choose a male or a female voice, very easy. I can also change the way the page looks. So I'm here in the upper right-hand corner clicking on Text Preferences. And we know from research there's something called visual crowding that some people experience. And if we increase the spacing, that can reduce visual crowding for some people and help improve reading speeds and focus. So I click Increase Spacing, and you can see I space out the letters and the words and the lines. I can also change the background color and the page looks. So I've got black here. I click blue or green or shades of yellow. There's many options for colors, and these are fine-tuned for accessibility. And so in this case, I'm going to leave it on the black background. And I'm going to go in the upper right and make the text size bigger. So I scroll this wheel in the upper right, and I've made the text much bigger on the page where there's just a couple of words per line. This is called short line mode. And some people with dyslexia might have short lines when they prefer to read. People with visual impairments might want to have the text much bigger. Thinking about practicing sight words, if I'm an early reader. Or it might be a non-native speaker who just wants to see a few words per line. There's many reasons why it might be helpful to have that. I'm going to make the text smaller again. And now I'm going to go to something called Grammar Options, clicking on the Grammar Options button in the upper right. Now, if you're an educator out there or any reading specialist, you know that many people need to practice learning syllables, whether they're learning to read or maybe someone with dyslexia is practicing saying syllables out loud. And you'll do something like syllables, and you'll clap your hands. Some educators will take sticky notes and help the students break the words into syllables with little sticky notes. And if you're doing that, that can be something that is very time-consuming as an educator. Could be stigmatizing as a student. Maybe you're an older student working on syllables. Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing that in a classroom where everyone else is already working on their syllables and you're getting special attention. So what we're doing with our cloud services, if I click on Grammar Options, with a single click on syllables, I can break all the words into syllables there with that single click. So it's really, really handy. I can also highlight parts of speech like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. So if I click on nouns, all the nouns are highlighted in purple. If I click on verbs, I highlight the verbs in red. If I click on adjectives, I can highlight in green, or adverbs in gold. We also know that there's some people who can't distinguish any colors or maybe are colorblind. So we also have something called Show Labels. So when I click Show Labels, it puts a little visual indicator above the word that makes it really easy to tell the part of speech. And I can also customize colors myself. So maybe I want to have the verbs as blue, and maybe I want to have the nouns as a light green. So lots of options to change the colors and, again, personalize and customize. And a student can do this on his or her own, and the educator gets more time back, student gets more independence. So I'm going to turn those off and move to the last few set of capabilities. So on reading preferences in the upper right, now one thing that I can do is there's a reading ruler that exists in many schools. So many educators will cut a little rectangle out of a piece of paper, and to help the student focus their eyes, you'll cover up that paper like this, and the student can move it down so they're just seeing 1 or 2 lines at a time. That's called a reading ruler. Some educators will spend 99 cents on Amazon. Some teachers will make their own. But if I click on line focus here, I'm going to switch the background to blue so this pops a little bit better. If I click on line focus, you can see I get my own reading ruler, and I can hit play to read it out loud.
Geography. Landforms can be mountains and
It'll
valleys.
automatically scroll, so I don't have to. I can keep my eye focused on that line. On the right-hand side, I can click the scrolling up and down, so I can move that little reading ruler myself. Maybe I want to choose 3 lines or 5 lines. I can personalize that in any way that I want. So again, thinking about this, this is not just used by students with ADHD, sometimes might like this to focus, students with dyslexia, but also we've had students with cerebral palsy use this for eye focus help. We've had students in middle school that had a concussion, and they could only read in their concussion recovery, that's a temporary impairment, that they might only have for 6 weeks, but things like line focus can help. We've had students with autism using line focus. So lots and lots of reasons and ways how this feature can be used. Now the next thing I'm going to show is a picture dictionary. And this one is a great one. It's been very popular with our students and educators. If I click on a word, I get a picture representation, and I can read that word out loud.
Earth. Earth. Earth.
So I see the picture, I hear the word, I see the word. So I'm getting lots of different ways to interact with that text. Here's mountains.
Mountains. Mountains.
Or valleys, or rivers. So that picture dictionary is really powerful. Now, beyond just English in this case, maybe I want to translate. So think about English language learners. Think about students with dyslexia who are also non-native speakers. Maybe I want, in this case, I've got 60 different languages. When I drop down this translate box, I've got over 60 languages to choose from. In this case, I'm going to choose Spanish, and I'm going to turn on by word. So now, when I click on a word, I not only see earth,
Earth.
I get the Spanish word.
Tierra.
And the read aloud voice switched to Spanish, so I can compare and
Earth.
contrast.
Tierra. Earth. Tierra.
So really powerful for practicing and hearing and working through. And if I want to go to the entire document translated, I can do that. If I go back to the reading preferences here and I click on document, the entire document translates, in this case to Spanish. And not only did the words translate, syllable breaks, the verbs, the nouns, the adjectives, everything translated. And if I hit play,
El estudio de las formas terrestres de la Tierra se llama geografía.
now if I want to slow that down, maybe I'm not a native Spanish speaker, I'm going to slow that down. I can easily do that.
Geografía física. Las formas de tierra pueden ser montañas.
And if I want to go back to the original, up in the top here, there's these little flippers, and I can click original, go back to English, and I can click on Spanish to flip back to Spanish and compare and contrast. So this is incredibly powerful to access text and content. And again, I'm going to hit exit. This is in plain Word Online that's free. And it's free in Word Online. It's built into OneNote Online. It's built into Teams. It's built into Flipgrid. It's built into Outlook. The other place that it's built into is the Edge browser. So here I am. I'm going to switch to Wikipedia, our good friend Wikipedia, the most basic type of web page you can imagine. And I'm going to go here and right-click on a word and say read aloud from here, which means I can read that out loud.
The Coliseum could hold, it is estimated, between 50,000 and 80,000 spectators.
So read aloud and word and line highlighting on any web page possible. That's built into the Edge browser, and it works on web pages. You can open up PDF files and read aloud, even doing reading view in focus mode for news articles. So think about that. All of the internet is now read aloud and line and word highlighting, and that's free. That's built into the Edge browser. And for those of you that are paying attention, we're moving the Edge browser to many other platforms. So it's on Windows 10. There's early versions on the Mac. It's coming to the iPhone and iPad. And we're going to be bringing read aloud capabilities to all those platforms. So Edge on Windows 10 works today, but it's also just rolling out to the iPhone and iPad as well, and more platforms later this summer and fall. So that accessing content is really powerful. The one other place I want to show access of content is in OneNote. So OneNote is our free digital binder, and I'm here on the OneNote Windows 10 app on my screen. This capability is available in all versions of OneNote, though. It's on the Mac, it's on iPad, it's in the browser, and it's on Windows 10. So thinking about accessing content universally. So I can take a picture of anything. In this case, I've taken a picture of a book, and I've put it into OneNote. So think about a student or a teacher snapping a picture of a book in the library or taking a picture of a worksheet. We run optical character recognition automatically on that picture. What does that mean? That means when I click this Immersive Reader button, I'm in OneNote, I go to the View tab, I click Immersive Reader. Everything has been automatically run through optical character recognition. So Harry Potter now is accessible with syllables and parts of speech and background color. And just for fun, let's translate that whole Harry Potter page into Spanish. So here's Spanish Harry Potter read out loud.
Su progreso, su cabeza girando en su largo cuello.
So really powerful universal access of content. And again, this is all free and it's available for the home, for school, both. So think about all those scenarios. We've heard stories from students. Sometimes I've heard a story of a dyslexic student who was 14 years old who had been struggling with reading for many years. They gave that student an iPad, and he went into the library during lunch with a pair of earpods, and he would snap a picture with the free tool Office Lens, which is available for iPhones and iPads. And Office Lens also has the Immersive Reader built in with optical character recognition. He was able to snap a picture, just like here, open the Immersive Reader, and start practicing and hearing it out loud and interacting with the text privately in a non-stigmatizing way and gaining confidence. And that positive feedback loop of technology, confidence, and independence started him on a road to rapid reading gains. And this is a story that was relayed to me by some of the educators at the school, but really powerful. And he'd been frustrated for many years. And now that he gets that sort of built-in and mainstream, non-stigmatizing technology, he was able to access content. Now, I've shown some demos of the Immersive Reader, but I think it's really powerful to see what are some of the students saying. And this is just a short 1-minute video, and it shows some students in a school, and it talks about Microsoft Learning Tools, which is the broader category, but these students are using that Immersive Reader. And just an FYI, this video is also available as audio described on YouTube, and we will make that available after the webinar. This one here is not audio described, but it is captioned. So I'm going to hit play.
The true purpose of education is to create possibility.
It was a little hard for me. People laugh whenever I read sometimes.
Well, they knew how to read, and I didn't.
I will never be good at reading. I will probably be held back again.
It highlights the words to know where I am.
When it's reading, I see spaces between the words, and it's easier to focus on.
The first time I actually could read that book, I was proud of myself.
I was very proud of myself. Good job, Joey.
When technology and education come together, possibility becomes reality.
I want to read every book in here.
So that was a video of some early students. Actually, some of the students are now on my screen here. Some of the first users of Immersive Reader from a couple of years ago. And this is a class that had a mix of students with dyslexia, students with ADHD, students with dysgraphia, and 3rd and 4th grade mix. And they started seeing reading speeds improve dramatically in some cases. Some charts here showing the reading speeds being measured weekly by the teacher in this class. They started seeing reading speeds go up. We also ran a study with the British Dyslexia Association. and worked with students with dyslexia, and we saw that comprehension scores improved in many cases by using the Immersive Reader. We have much older students, 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds using the Immersive Reader. We have very early and emerging readers, kindergartners, first graders using the Immersive Reader as well. And this is a picture of a student from Kentucky practicing sight words. He's in first grade. He was one of the struggling readers in the class. Also, students with autism using the Immersive Reader to help focus and get access with picture dictionary, line focus. So we've had many stories, and this is some examples in Washington, D.C. from some students with autism using the Immersive Reader as well. And it's global. So people might ask, gosh, is this only English? No. This is available in over 60 languages. We've got all sorts of documentation online and also in this PowerPoint deck that everyone has access to. This is being used globally. And this is a quote I got. The impact of this is quite powerful. This is a quote I got from an educator in Argentina just 2 weeks ago. I wanted to let you know that today a mom spoke to me and she started crying. Her son was finally able to read on his own thanks to the Immersive Reader. I am currently changing the lives of so many children. I mean, that's what it's all about, giving students access and helping them get over maybe some of the barriers that they might have with reading. We also did a study. So for those of you looking for more hard data, this is a slide of a study that we did. And it was with mainstream students in 4th grade, 6th through 8th grade, 10th through 12th grade. We saw that reading comprehension scores improved, writing improved, non-cognitive processes improved. There is a 30-page full report. I will not be going all of that into that today, but it is available, and the link is in here. But just a couple of highlights. On average, 10 percentage point improvement for 4th grade comprehension scores across the board. There's a quote here about Immersive Reader is an empowering tool. It evens the playing field for kids who are struggling and allows them to feel more independent, not depending on the teacher, not depending on peers. But maybe a more impactful quote at a high level, which I like, was that nearly all of the study teachers mentioned how Immersive Reader enabled their readers, regardless of skill level, to access content aimed at a higher reading level. So that means, yes, back in that early hackathon, we focused on dyslexia. But guess what? With inclusive design, that's now helping all students, helping the general education population. And that's the true power of inclusive design. Now, one more thing I want to mention is that for those of you who are educators, or maybe your parents, or maybe school leaders, Microsoft partnered with the nonprofit Made by Dyslexia. That's the nonprofit initially started by Richard Branson from the UK. And we've put a whole course together that's free on the Microsoft educator community. So why did we do that? Well, here's an example of it. I've pulled it up on my screen. We put together, it's a short course, just an hour long, and there's these short 5-minute engaging videos. It's really to help bring awareness and understanding around dyslexia. It's estimated that between 15 and 20% of the world population is dyslexic or has dyslexia. And there's not as much knowledge as you might think or hope about dyslexia in teacher colleges, in school districts, or parents. And so there's a knowledge gap. And we're trying to, through the educator community, which is free and anyone can go into, to partner and bring more information out there about dyslexic strengths, dyslexic challenges. And we have some high-profile people like Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, but it's also interviewing schools for dyslexia, talking to students and teachers, indicators of dyslexia. So this entire course is free and available to anyone. We've already had over 100,000 people look at this course, and it's something we think is important for schools to understand. Because if up to 1 in 5 of your students are students with dyslexia, that's a lot of students. And if you're not fully knowledgeable on that topic, you might not be able to engage them in the way that you might want to. And so we encourage people to take a look at that. The link for that course is also right here in the PowerPoint. It's aka.ms/MEC Made by Dyslexia. Now, we just launched a bunch of new updates in just the past couple of weeks. I'm going to highlight a few of those here. One of them is we brought the Immersive Reader into Minecraft education. So Minecraft for Education is an amazing tool that's being used by educators around the world It turns out, though, some of the text inside of Minecraft, like on the boards, the billboards, the signs, the dialogues, can be really hard for some people to access that content. So we've made it such that the Immersive Reader, here's a little image where you click that Immersive Reader button, and you can launch all the Minecraft content into the Immersive Reader. We also are bringing the Immersive Reader to our Whiteboard app. So the Microsoft Whiteboard, which is a free application available on multiple platforms, we are now, there's a little image video here, you'll be able to select some text that is on the whiteboard and then launch that Immersive Reader and have access to all the content. Just like the same Immersive Reader in all the other examples we've seen today. And last thing from Microsoft, we're also launching Immersive Reader for Microsoft Forms. So thinking about formative assessment and being able to access text, reading comprehension quizzes, being able to access anything in Forms, you'll be able to launch the Immersive Reader. Built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, free. So that's going to be coming early fall or late summer timeframe. And maybe the most exciting announcement in my mind that we just made in the last couple of weeks is Microsoft has opened up the entire Immersive Reader to any application or platform on the planet. Any content provider, EdTech app, iPhone, iPad, Windows 10 app, Android app, website. Any of those can integrate the Immersive Reader into their own app. So outside of Microsoft products, anyone can integrate the Immersive Reader. Here's an example of a third party called ThingLink, and they've embedded the Immersive Reader in their app, and they launch the button, and it goes right there. There's another great app out there called Buncee, very popular ed tech app. I've switched over to my demo here. If I go on and highlight the Immersive Reader button, I've just launched that for Buncee. So any application on the planet, and this goes outside of education, this can be things like games, enterprises, government. So any app, any platform. I've got a picture here of a bunch of our early integrators using apps like Nearpod, PowerSchool, Cortext, Follett, Wakelet, Schooler. A lot of apps out there have already integrated Immersive Reader. If you are out there and you're thinking, oh, I would love my student's app that I love a lot to be able to have the Immersive Reader, tell that app provider, send them this link. This is the aka.ms/Immersive Reader. It is really easy to integrate. It takes many partners less than a single day to integrate. That's a very quick engineering integration out there. So let people know that the Immersive Reader is open to everyone on the planet. It is not just in Microsoft products. And this last slide is a chart that we have that shows all the different applications and features across Microsoft products where the Immersive Reader and some of these related technologies exist. So across OneNote and Word and Outlook, Teams, Flipgrid, Edge, Office Lens. And this is always growing. And we have access to this for a flyer. So if you're running professional development or training as a teacher, if you want to hand out a flyer that has all the places where the Immersive Reader is, this is a great little slide, and there's a great little PDF handout that goes with it. So that is the Immersive Reader, and I spent a bit more time on that because reading is that critical key to unlock the rest of education. But now we're going to talk about writing. So writing often goes hand in hand with reading, and we're going to talk about some of the capabilities that are built into our platform that can help students with writing. Now, for those of you that haven't seen what dyslexia and dysgraphia together can look like, we have a slide here, a couple, that can show why it is so important to help students with writing. So this is from one of the studies that we did with the School for Dyslexia in the UK. And there's a quote from the head teacher. "Our pupils, all pretty much without exception, hate writing. And the learning tools transform writing for our pupils." So here's an example. It's a picture from a boy, 9-year-old boy, dyslexic and dysgraphic. And you can see the words highlighted in blue. His goal was to write a 100-word essay. And at that point in his life, he was not able to write that down on paper. It wasn't that he didn't have the ideas. It's that getting the words out when you're a student with dysgraphia or a student with dyslexia combined especially can be very challenging. So using some of our capabilities and tools, this is what he produced on his own independently in under an hour. And you can really see that change. This slide here is an 11-year-old girl, similar school, same school. The highlighted words in blue were before, and then using some of our tools and technology are the after. Last slide, this is from a mother that I know. We have permission to use this. Her 7th grade son, student with dyslexia, student with dysgraphia, the left-hand side was the paper he was trying to write on. And you can see, you can almost feel the struggle. That's a 7th grade boy trying to write down his story. Using the built-in Word speech-to-text, the right-hand side was what he was able to produce quite quickly. So you can really see the power of technology there. And we want to think about, well, what do educators want? How can students gain more independence? How can they focus on what's most important versus trying to tackle everything at once? And so what I'm going to show here, I'm going to flip over to Word, our good friend Word in the desktop. So I've got Word desktop right here. And the first thing I'm going to point out is I'm on the Home tab of Word. And you might not know this, but Word desktop, if you're using Office 365, you have a dictate button right here. And that's in many languages. We've got over 11 languages, but dictate means speech to text. That is built into Word. It's also built in to PowerPoint. If you haven't seen PowerPoint recently, I'm going to go to the Home tab. Just in PowerPoint, there's a dictate button. Dictate is built into Outlook, and it's built into OneNote. And it's not just for the desktop. Dictate is also built in. I'm going to switch back to the browser again. Dictate is built into the web version of Word, so that free version of Word has a dictate button. It's built into the free version of OneNote, and we just announced it's coming to the free web version of PowerPoint as well later this summer. So speech-to-text built-in and mainstream is very powerful. Now I'm going to switch to the Review tab, and we're going to click the most boring button that many of you have thought about probably in 20 years, the spell checker. A lot of people don't spend a lot of time thinking about spell checking. Not all people, but a lot of people don't. Well, we've updated spell check, so when I click that, you're going to see this new thing called Editor. An editor really takes new natural language capabilities, but also focus and attention and read aloud and combines them into one nice interface. So first off, you can see there are 3 spelling errors. We grouped that, the number 3. And if I click it, it highlights the spelling word so I can focus. And I can read it out loud. So if I click this new Read Aloud button.
The forest covers an area as large as the 48 contiguous United States.
I can get context on the word, I can read it out loud. Everything's laid out and organized so I can focus and get access to the content. If I click the arrow button in the upper right, it jumps me to the next word and everything changes, so it allows me to jump through the document in a really focused way. If I have 50 spelling errors, all those red squiggly lines can be kind of overwhelming. Whether I'm a student with ADHD or whether I'm just someone at Microsoft who's working on a document, this is really helpful for everyone. Same thing with grammar. So I drill into grammar, there's 4 errors. I can jump forwards and backwards and read it out loud. But then we have new things like clarity and conciseness. This is new natural language processing. And so now I can jump and get feedback on, instead of saying, for example, reflect back that is highlighted, it gives me a suggestion on just, maybe I should say just reflect. And so it gives me suggestions on how I can be more clear and concise with my writing. So now the teacher doesn't have to spend as much time giving the same feedback over and over again. Editor can do that and help. But then we have new capabilities like using inclusive language or vocabulary choice or gender-neutral language. So maybe I've been saying fireman and policeman all throughout my document. Editor will suggest you could consider firefighter or police officer. And so there's a lot of new capabilities that we're adding more and more of that can help you be more inclusive in your language and just in general help your writing overall. So this doesn't just help a student with dysgraphia. This helps all humans. It helps all the Microsoft employees I know can use this, including myself. It can help people in corporations. It can help people in government. It can help educators. It can help students. So this is really an inclusive feature that can help all sorts of people. So those are some of the writing capabilities. One other thing I'm going to show is text prediction. So if I go to Windows and I click on Settings in Windows 10, and I'm going to type in text suggestions. This is otherwise known as word prediction. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to turn on Show Text Suggestions as I type on the hardware keyboard. So text suggestions are on your phone when it suggests little words while you're typing. That's the same thing as word prediction. So when I turn this on, now when I go back to my document, if I start typing, it'll give me suggestions as I type along. And so that's really that nice little word prediction is just built in and available. Now, it is not high quality word prediction. That's not the same word prediction that you might find in third parties, and that is very high quality and focused on students that need it. But if you want lightweight word prediction that is available to anyone in your school district, you can turn on the text suggestions as you type. So those are a few of the examples from writing. And here's a great quote from an educator in St. Louis. I have a student who was writing only 3 to 4 sentences before I learned about these tools. He's now writing 2.5 pages independently with editor and dictation. This is changing lives. If you think back to that student of the 7th grader who was writing on the paper back here, that has made that student's life a lot more less frustrating is what I would probably guess. And talking to the mother, that's what she told me as well. And so these technologies that are built in and part of the Office suite are very powerful to help out. So at ISTE, we announced that PowerPoint Online is going to be getting dictation. So PowerPoint speech-to-text is coming late summer, early fall. We're also rolling out Editor into the web version of Word and to PowerPoint Online. And word prediction or text suggestions is now in 75 different languages with the October 2018 update of Windows 10. So very powerful, built-in, and available to everyone. The third category in Inclusive Classroom is math. So we covered reading, we talked about writing, now we're going to talk about math. And math is often not covered as much when you're talking about inclusive design and accessibility tools. Math is a tricky one because math is a lot more of writing often, and there's not as much free technology around math. So challenges for students with math. If their dyslexia might have reading the story problems and mixing words and characters and numbers together. Attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, focus and attention, where are you focusing when you're doing the math? Dyscalculia, which dyscalculia is kind of like dyslexia but for math. It's students that might have learning disabilities with math specific, or mobility impairments. And I'm going to show some capabilities that are built into our tools and available today that can help with all of those things. So I'm going to switch back to OneNote. And here I am in OneNote. This is the Windows 10 version of OneNote. What I'm about to show is available also in the web version of OneNote. And this is all free. So first off, I'm going to select this equation. I've written out 5x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 0. And I selected it. I'm going to go to the Draw tab in OneNote. And I'm going to click on the Math button. So first off, you can see it converted that ink into text. 5x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 0. I can select an action. So now I'm going to choose Solve for x. And it actually solves the equation right there, which is really powerful. But let's say I want to show the steps. Think about a student personalizing for themselves and understanding how was that problem solved. I'm going to say Show steps using completing the square. And as you can see, all the steps over on the right-hand side, it put all the steps for that equation right into OneNote, which is really powerful. Now, thinking about it from an inclusive perspective, if I experience visual crowding, or I'm a student with dyslexia, or dyscalculia, or ADHD, all of that text jammed into the right-hand side with words and numbers and equations might be difficult. But if you look here, there's a little Immersive Reader button. And if I click Open with Immersive Reader, it takes the entire set of equations that we just talked about and puts it into the Immersive Reader. Everything, including complexity of equations, it doesn't just handle simple equations. Now I can do things like maybe I'm going to make the background blue, maybe I'm going to turn on line focus, and anything I want, I can also read that out loud. So I can hit play.
B in the form x squared plus bx equals z.
So it'll read math out loud. And this is built into OneNote, and it's all free. So that can help focus. That can help with dyslexia, dyscalculia, visual impairments. There's lots of reasons and ways that that can help. Now, the last thing I'm going to show, and I'm going to close the pane and start this over, just pretend we're going to be generating a math quiz here. We just launched a new capability called Generate Math Quiz. So if I go to the Draw tab and I click Math again, I get the equation. I'm going to say select an action again, solve for x. But in this case, instead of showing the steps, there's a button here called Generate a Practice Quiz. And I'm going to click that, and it's going to let me generate a quiz. So what does that mean? First off, it says how many questions, so I'm going to choose 3 questions. So what's going to happen here is it's going to run, and it's going to generate a practice quiz based on the equation up here. So using AI, it said the problem was 5x squared plus 3x minus 7. It generated a brand new practice quiz with different equations that are similar but different to what I just was working on. So if I'm a student who wants to practice that same type of equation, I can do that, and it generates a form. So I can go through here. I'm just going to guess some answers here really quickly. I can go through and solve for those, and I hit submit. So I got my self-quiz, I hit submit. And now, as a student, I can view my own results that I just did. So here we go. Oh, I guessed the first one right. Yay for me. But it shows me which ones I got right and what the right answers were. So what does that mean? I can now personalize math for myself and practice on my own. Independent practice with question after question that's similar to the question that was already there. That is really powerful for a student. It's also powerful for an educator that wants to generate questions. And using OneNote, I could distribute this form out to my students as well. But for the student, his or herself, this is a way to personalize that content and generate your own practice quiz. So like I mentioned, this is already rolled out and available in the OneNote Windows 10. It rolled out 3 weeks ago, so back in June. It's coming to the web version of OneNote in just another month or so. And you can look forward to using this and using it today. So really powerful way for inclusive math. The last of the inclusive classroom topics is going to be student and parent communication. So what does that mean? Well, first off, I'm going to put on my little headset here to demonstrate this. So we have recently rolled out into PowerPoint, and I'm going to turn this on. We've rolled out real-time captioning as well as translation. So I'm going to turn on real-time caption and translation. This allows PowerPoint to present more inclusively. I could be captioning in English, but in this case, I've turned it on to translate in real time to Spanish. Think about an educator who's presenting to a group of people who don't speak the same language as the educator, and this really allows PowerPoint to be more inclusive. And it could be for a PowerPoint, but we also announced that we are rolling out this capability for real-time captioning in English to start, only in English. That's coming to Microsoft Teams. So you could join a Teams meeting and turn on captions and get it in English. But beyond Teams, we just announced yesterday that our live events part of Teams now has real-time captioning in multiple languages. That means you can create a Teams live event, invite other parents or other educators into it. They could set their language to say Spanish or Arabic or Chinese or Italian and get real-time captions, just like you're seeing here, for that meeting that they've joined into. But even just PowerPoint alone, PowerPoint has now rolled this out into PowerPoint for the web, PowerPoint for Mac, PowerPoint for desktop. This is part of Office 365, and it's free. Now, going beyond PowerPoint, even the translator scenario, which uses the same technology as PowerPoint. If you have a phone, iPhone or Android, you can imagine my phone here. You can download iPhone or Android app for free on your translator. So that can allow any student to engage and get real-time captioning. In this case, the student has a web browser up. This is a student with hearing impairments. That student can watch the captioning and see it happening in real time. So the teacher could be up front using a microphone and get real-time captioning in that browser for a student. But from an inclusive perspective, it can get even more engaging for larger groups of people who speak different languages. So why is that important? Well, here's an example that's happening, and these are happening across the United States and world. If you've never seen this scenario, this is not magic. This is actually happening now. There is an administrator at the front of the classroom. Think about the non-native speakers that you have in your district, and how are you engaging the parents of your non-native speakers? Oftentimes, schools are slowly able to engage new families or the students that might not speak the native language, but the parents can sometimes be left out. And we know from research that when you engage parents in education, student outcomes improve. This allows you to do that. So this educator has created Microsoft Translator, allow the parents to join by a QR code or a join code, and you can see there are 10 languages the parents connected their phones up to that session. He speaks in English, it pushes it out into 10 different languages, and that, in this case, there's a Chinese parent with her phone is able to speak back to the person into the phone. It translates into English. And so what does that mean? It pushes it out in 10 languages in real time. Those 10 languages are able to communicate back and with each other across the room. So multi-directional real-time translation. It's pretty incredible, even for student and parent-teacher conferences. Here's an example where the parent is communicating with the administrator or the educator just using the device going in real time. The parent sets their language, and the administrator sets the language, and everything else starts happening. You can even plug in earbuds, so if you can't read the language natively, because not all parents are literate in their native language, they could still listen with text-to-speech. So it's really powerful to engage that way. Some great feedback we had. I severely underestimated the impact the Translator app would have on district leaders, newcomer students, and their parents in one short year, and how it would charge up our plans for family engagement in the upcoming year. So that is incredibly powerful and a way to engage. And this is all free. It's all available today. We have training and professional development available. Everything you're seeing is happening now. So if it's not happening in your district, I really suggest taking a look at this application afterwards, this PowerPoint deck. Just to wrap up, I'm not going to be able to demo, but we did announce just a week or so ago, Presenter Coach in PowerPoint. I'm not going to show it today, but what this is allows students and teachers and people, anyone can practice reading out loud their presentation, and get real-time feedback on things like pacing, disfluency, so that's words like and basically, filler words, getting real-time feedback on sensitive or inclusive phrases, as well as detecting if you're reading off the slide line by line. All of that is going to be coming out later this fall. It's very powerful. It's called Presenter Coach, and it's going to be giving PowerPoint and real-time feedback, so students can inclusively on their own practice and get feedback from a non-judgmental PowerPoint and improve how they're communicating and presenting. We have many more things around accessibility in some of our inclusion in action videos, things around students with visual impairments, deaf and hard of hearing, cerebral palsy, many other capabilities we're not covering today. And just to wrap up before we go to Q&A, we did a large-scale study on the Microsoft Accessibility Platform and the total economic impact that it's having today in school districts. So many school districts say, hey, this all sounds great. Do you have data and research around how it will save time, save money, impact student outcomes? And we did. We worked with Forrester and interviewed many school districts across the country in K-12 as well as higher education. And we interviewed many students, many teachers, and many faculty and administrators. And what we saw was that there were improved student outcomes, teacher time savings, lower total cost of ownership, and simplified IT. So we saw outcomes improve, up to 20% in reading and writing. On average, school districts that deployed our inclusive platforms, $50 IT savings per student per year. So if your district is having budget cuts or you're trying to save money, you might have many inclusive technologies already available in what you are going to be using that you're not taking advantage of. So something to consider. Saving time, 97 hours per teacher per year. It's a massive time savings. So on the student outcomes, it can help remove stigma, non-stigmatizing, enabling undiagnosed students to explore. Not all students with dyslexia have been diagnosed, for example. And it's available to all students. That's the built-in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, free. Teacher time savings. There's an example of might save 1.5 hours per week. Special education teachers saving time, less training, streamlined technology management. Lower total cost of ownership. We eliminated $95,000 per year on other read aloud solutions and the amount of time needed to support this will go away. So reducing that need for training because it's built into the platform. Something I want to say here is we have many amazing third-party accessibility partners, and they have incredible solutions that help many students. What we're saying here is many students will still need those third-party solutions, and we absolutely encourage them to keep using those solutions. There may be some cases where some of the Microsoft solutions can help out more broadly across the district, and districts will just have to decide what makes the most sense there. And lastly, this can simplify IT management, so helping IT, deploy, maintenance, and using lots of our tools for deployment, again, across the whole Microsoft 365 platform, this can help. So that study is fully available in public. It's also in this PowerPoint deck. And just to wrap up, before we go to questions, there's a great quote here from Marlee Matlin, which is, "No one should have to ask for access. It should just be there." That's the way we think about Inclusive Classroom. It's built in, mainstream, non-stigmatizing, and free and available to all. So when all students can access the same technology, then everyone can be included. And that's the way we like to think about this. Enabling students to grow their independence, enable teachers to reach every learner, and allow school districts and systems to meet their goals around equity and inclusion. And with that, I'm just going to put up the last slide as we go to Q&A. If you want to get today's presentation, it's fully public, fully available. Share it with the world. Share it with friends and neighbors. It's aka.ms/Microsoft Accessibility Webinar 2019. Also, my email's on the screen and my Twitter handle. So I encourage people to send me a direct email, reach out to me on Twitter, whatever works best for you. My inbox and door is open. And if you want us to make suggestions, go to our user voice site for Microsoft Accessibility at theuservoice.com. There's a Microsoft Accessibility section. You can put votes for new features and the latest and greatest there. And with that, I think we're going to go over to Sean and Chitra to help answer some questions.
Hey, sure.
Let's do it. Thanks, Mike. I know I love seeing some of these demos and seeing some of these tools in action, so I'm excited to see more about the presentation coach as well.
Yes, it is awesome.
All right, so we're ready for a few questions. Due to time, we might not get to all of them. But again, please feel free to share them at accwebinars@microsoft.com or share them on Twitter at MSFTenable with the hashtag accessibilitywebinar.
I do have the first question here. By the way, those are cool features. I'm going to have my first grader try those features too once I get back. So, okay, so the first question I have here is, how do I get the Immersive Reader, and do I have to install it? And I have another follow-up question once you're done.
Yeah, so the question, how to get the Immersive Reader? Well, for Microsoft products, the Immersive Reader is built in already. So as you saw, you don't have to install anything. It's there as part of the Word web, OneNote in the web. It's built into Microsoft Teams, Flipgrid, and Outlook if you go to the View tab. For our desktop applications, so things like OneNote and Word and the Edge browser, you do need to install Office 365 to have access to the Immersive Reader. The Edge browser, it's built in, but you do need to install Windows 10 to get the Edge browser right now.
Cool. Thank you. And can you tell us in what version of Word is this available?
Well, in Word in the web, it's available it's a browser, so there is no version. For Word desktop for Windows, it's available in the latest Office 365. So if you're an Office 365 subscriber, you have access to it already. It is not, for example, in Word 2016 on a DVD install. You have to have the Office 365 subscription. And it's on Word for Mac, same thing with Office 365. And it's also in Word for iPad. So as long as you're on the Office 365 subscription.
Thanks, Mike. One of the questions I have here is, Mike, can you tell us what other resources are available for if I want to make my classroom more inclusive?
Yeah, great question. So first off, I'm going to switch slides if you want to show this here. We put together a website that's aka.ms/inclusive-ultimate, which is the educator community page with everything you need to make your classroom inclusive. It's got the latest links, training, professional development, how to get support, videos, blogs, examples. So this link here is great, but if you get the deck, like I said, we've even got more resources in this deck. I couldn't possibly cover them all. But training and professional development materials, we've got a whole set of courses. We've got collections of content in Wakelet. We have 4 3 things to try. So there's a lot of resources. I would say that Inclusive Ultimate or my deck are great jumping off points.
Cool. I'll take the next question here. So the next question for you is, do you have research data on the impact of learning tools?
Yes, so sort of as I mentioned in the presentation, we've got a study, and that's in the deck here, the learning tool study that we did where we saw student outcomes improve. We have other research like the Forrester research showing the economic impact, including student outcomes, teacher time savings, and actual dollar savings. We actually have some more research coming out pretty soon. I can't share it today, but probably in the next month or two, we're going to have some more research studies showing the efficacy of the Immersive Reader in particular.
Thanks. And I have one question on Twitter here.
Yeah.
This comes from Donna, who I can tell is really excited about Immersive Reader being in forms.
Yeah.
Now, what about Sway?
Sway. That is a great question. So Microsoft Sway is a product out there that has text in it, and I think we don't have anything to announce today on Sway, but it's a great piece of feedback, and I personally would love to see that integrated into Sway.
That must be a Microsoft employee. Just kidding. All right, I do have another question came through email. Can Immersive Reader open and work with PDF documents or only Word documents?
So currently, Immersive Reader in Microsoft Word will work with Word documents. If you use the Edge browser, the Edge browser can open up PDF files, and then you can do read aloud and word and line highlighting on any PDF file. So Edge is a PDF reader. So it works there. And we have got quite a bit of feedback for the Immersive Reader that's available for all the other platforms out there. So things like we talked about Buncee and Wakelet and ThingLink. I would say we've got a lot of feedback on making Immersive Reader work in other formats. And all I can say is, Chitra, Microsoft likes to listen to customer feedback. That's all I'll say today.
All right, cool. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one more on Twitter, sorry. And this is also from Donna, so I can tell she's been really engaged and excited to listen today. So is summary analysis data available for the practice math problems in OneNote?
Yes, it is available for that student. So if I'm a student and I create those math problems, I didn't show this, but the forms tool will automatically give a summary and an analysis and a breakdown with actually nice pie charts and bar charts of exactly how you were doing and the number of questions answered correctly, et cetera. So yes, it is available. If the student generates the practice, then the student gets those forms, or the data breakdown. If the teacher distributes those questions, then the teacher gets the data breakdown in the forms.
Okay, cool. This will be the last question, considering that we already ran out of time. Is Immersive Reader in Office 2019?
So if you mean, is it in Office 2019 that you install with a DVD, or the not connected version? It is part of Word 2019. It just doesn't have all the latest updates. Because when you buy the Office 2019, we kind of snapshot in time. So it doesn't have all the latest updates, but Word 2019 has it. Also, OneNote for Windows 10, which is available for anyone, also has the latest updates.
Cool. All right. So we would love to take more questions, but we ran out of time. So that's all the time we have for questions. I do want to remind you that please send your questions through. We'll get to it later after the session. You can continue to tweet us at MSFTenable. Please use the hashtag accessibilitywebinar or contact our Disability Answer Desk. The URL is aka.ms/DAD, D-A-D. So I'm going to give you a few more resources here which might be helpful. To learn more about the learning tools, please visit aka.ms/learning tools. To become an Office Insider, try out our new features at insider.office.com. To share feedback on accessibility features, you could go to aka.ms/accessibility feedback.
Great. And so just a quick note. So after this session, we will be sending a link to a brief survey. So we'd love to get your feedback on what you liked or didn't like, or what you'd like to see in the future. So please take the time to fill that out. To view our full webinar schedule and see any archived sessions, you can visit aka.ms/accessibility-webinars. And our next webinar is on August 21st, and we'll cover some accessibility features and devices on Xbox. And that's a wrap for today, so thank you all for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone.